was a crisp autumn evening when my younger brother Aaron and I made our way to Grandma's house. Located in the outskirts of the city, it was an old cottage surrounded by towering trees. The house always had this aura of mystery about it, the kind that piqued my curiosity. Despite being a simple house with its faded walls and dim-lit rooms, there was something captivating about it, especially when you took a walk around the garden and smelled the rich mixture of old wood and herbs in the air. Grandma, or Evelyn, as everyone called her, had always been a peculiar woman. A kind-hearted soul, yes, but also someone who kept to herself. The locals respected her, even feared her, and often came to her for advice or remedies that couldn't be found anywhere else. Some said she dabbled in things beyond the usual things that made me wonder if she was more connected to the supernatural than we could comprehend. As a child, I had heard whispers about her connection to black magic, but I always dismissed them as mere gossip. Grandma was a healer. That's all I thought she was. When Aaron and I arrived at her house, the front door creaked open with a welcoming squeak. The fire in the hearth crackled, casting an inviting warmth over the room. Grandma sat in her favorite chair by the window, knitting. Her silver hair was neatly tied back in a bun, and the glow of the fire highlighted the sharpness in her eyes that always seemed to see more than just the surface of things. "Ah, my darlings," she greeted us, her voice rich and warm. "I've been waiting for you." Dinner was a quiet affair that night. Grandma served her specialties: lentil soup, crispy bread, and a rich, hearty stew that smelled like it had been simmering for hours. It was a comfort, and for the first time I found myself relaxing in her presence. Aaron, however, seemed uneasy. His eyes kept darting around the room as if he were expecting something to jump out at him. The wind outside howled louder, and the kitchen door creaked open, swaying back and forth as if some unseen force was playing with it. I couldn't help but glance at it several times, feeling a chill run down my spine. "Grandma," I began, breaking the silence. "Is everything all right? The wind sounds strange tonight." Grandma smiled, her face glowing in the firelight. "It's nothing, my dear. Just the wind. It plays tricks on the old house sometimes." But there was something in her tone, something that suggested she wasn't entirely telling the truth. After dinner, she suggested we retire for the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I had always been curious about the attic, a place Grandma kept locked whenever we visited. But tonight, the door to the attic was slightly ajar, and there was something flickering inside, like a light dancing in the shadows. "Grandma, what's up there?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her expression shifted ever so slightly, and for a moment I saw a flicker of something, maybe fear or caution, cross her face. "It's nothing you need to worry about," she replied, her tone softer than usual. "Some things are better left undisturbed." But curiosity got the best of me. As soon as Grandma turned away, I grabbed Aaron's hand. "Come on, we're going upstairs." He looked hesitant, his face pale, but he followed me nonetheless. The attic was dark, the only light coming from the flickering candle I held in my hand. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked beneath our feet. Old trunks and forgotten relics were scattered around, covered in cobwebs. But in the far corner of the room, there was a chest, something that caught my attention immediately. Unlike anything I had seen before, the chest was intricately carved with symbols I didn't recognize, and the faint flicker of light seemed to come from within it. "Do you see that?" Aaron whispered, his voice trembling as he stood behind me. I nodded, my heart racing. There was something undeniably strange about the chest. Against my better judgment, I approached it and slowly lifted the lid. The moment I did, a cold wind swept through the attic, extinguishing the candle in my hand. The room went pitch black. Then, a voice low, guttural, like a growl from the depths of the earth, echoed in the air. "You have opened the door to the forbidden." My heart skipped a beat. Panic surged through me. I tried to close the chest, but it wouldn't budge. The air grew heavier, the room colder, and the symbols on the chest began to glow faintly, illuminating the space around us. And then I felt it, the presence of something ancient and powerful, closing in on us. "Come on, we need to get out of here," Aaron yelled, grabbing my arm. But as we turned to leave, the shadows in the room began to shift, and from the corner of the room, something emerged. A figure, tall and ominous, its features obscured by the mist, but its eyes glowing red and burning with malice were fixed on us. I froze in terror, my breath catching in my throat. This wasn't just any spirit. It was something darker, something far beyond what I could comprehend. Before I could react, the shadow lunged toward Aaron, its hands reaching for him. I screamed, but the creature didn't seem to care. It was after him. But just as it was about to grab hold, a loud, commanding voice filled the air. "Be gone!" Grandma's voice cut through the darkness. She was standing in the doorway, her face a mixture of anger and fear. In her hand she held a small dagger, its blade gleaming in the dim light. She stepped forward, her voice fierce as she hurled the dagger at the shadow. The moment the dagger struck the figure, the mist let out an eerie wail, and the shadow seemed to evaporate, dissipating into thin air. The room fell silent, the tension in the air vanishing as quickly as it had come. Grandma rushed to us, her arms around Aaron and me, as she pulled us into a tight embrace. "You shouldn't have opened that chest," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've awakened something that should never have been disturbed." "What was that?" I whispered, still trying to catch my breath. Grandma's face darkened as she sat us down. "That was a curse placed on our family long ago. It's the spirit of my brother Thomas. He sought power beyond what he could control. He turned to black magic, and it consumed him. In order to stop him, I had to trap him in that chest. But now you've released him." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "We must return him to his prison," Grandma said, gravely. "But it won't be easy. He will try to possess one of you to use your body to regain his strength. You have to fight it, and you have to fight it together." For the rest of the night, Grandma trained us. She gave us small amulets, stones carved with ancient runes that would protect us from the spirit's grasp. But even with the amulets, I could feel the presence of Thomas lingering in the air, his cold fingers brushing against my mind, trying to claw his way back. By morning, the sun's light finally pierced the darkness, and the house seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The mist that had filled the room had gone, and the shadow was no longer there. But the feeling remained, a sense that we had only just escaped something far worse. Grandma's house was safe for now, but the curse had been broken at a cost, and I knew deep down that I would never look at it the same way again. The legacy of black magic would follow us, a silent shadow that would never truly fade. As we left the house, I glanced back one last time. The wind had stopped, and the trees stood still. But in my mind, I knew that some secrets, some dark powers were never truly gone. They waited, always lurking, waiting for the next person to break the seal.